Right, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast and welcome to another match reaction for Oxford United in Sky Bet League. Won a defeat on this Tuesday night to Plymouth Argyle. Very, very disappointing stuff. In the comment section down below, give me your thoughts. Please leave a like and subscribe as well if you enjoy this episode. I'm probably not going to enjoy making it so much. I didn't enjoy the last 2 hours of football, I must say. Really, really frustrating. And Plymouth, first and foremost, before I forget, which I shouldn't forget because it was very, very evident across that game, the much better side, dominating Oxford really in all areas, in terms of ball possession, in terms of, I think, shots on target. I could go on. So many different statistics, and even just on the eye as well. A really, really dominating performance for Plymouth, and certainly not justified in the scoreline. Prime example of a scoreline not reflecting a game of football. Oxford, to only lose that game 1-0, it looks like it was tight. It wasn't close whatsoever. The gap in quality between those two sides was absolutely huge. And look, you look at the league table going into the game, you look at the way Plymouth have been playing in recent weeks, and again, some of the performances and results we've seen from Plymouth so far, only 8 games in, they really, really have shown their quality. They really, really have. And they wouldn't be third in the league for no reason. They're still third after the game now. 4 straight wins for them, 18 points after 8 games. Of course, it's exceptional form. It's an exceptional start to the season. Ultimately, only 2 defeats from those 8 as well. You look at Oxford now, 15th in the league, more defeats than wins, 4 defeats in total, only 3 wins so far this season. And, not backing up those last 2 wins against Cheltenham and Burton in any kind of fashion tonight. And at no point did we look like we were going to. Absolutely no point at all. When we went 1-0 down, there was no way on earth we were coming back into that game. And I don't mean that in a dramatic sense whatsoever. That game was over as soon as we conceded. And that is absolutely, as a football fan, the most, I would say, heartbreaking. That sounds a little bit over the top, but certainly not encouraging whatsoever. And like I say, as a supporter of a football club, it is really disheartening, really, because you always sort of live as football fans, and that's the same just generally, but also, when you're watching a game of football, you live with that sense of hope, you live with that sort of sense of optimism ultimately. But Oxford United this season is not filling many fans with optimism or hope, especially when they go 1-0 down. And this is more than just the result. This is more than just this performance, ultimately. You look at the last 2 games in which we have won, Cheltenham and Burton. Not very high performance levels. I said it in the Burton match reaction. We didn't do one for Cheltenham, but I did the roundup, and I did that as one of the selected games. And I said there wasn't much quality in that whatsoever. We grinded out a result in both of those games. They were tight. They were nitty gritty, but you can't win dirty. Carl Robinson said himself after that Burton win last Saturday, or the Saturday before last, sorry, we won that game dirty. He admitted we won that game where we had to dig in and really grind out a result. You can't do that against Plymouth. You can't do that against the top side. It's simply not possible. And the reason for that is they are going to find different ways to expose you due to the fact they've got something called quality. They've got something called quality, and something that we are really, really lacking. And if you don't have in this division, surprise, surprise, wake up call, you will not be successful. Not just in League One, really. That's in any walks of life. But especially in this really competitive division, if you don't have that bit of spark, that bit of quality, a different kind of edge, you will not win games of football, and you'll get outclassed. And we got absolutely outclassed from minute 1 until minute 90. We held on, absolutely held on. And if anybody comes out and says, it's only 1-0, give it time, we still got players out injured. Okay, some of that is correct. We do still have players out injured. But we're bringing players on that, again, we spoke about it on the radio. We spoke about it actually in the preview I did, but on the Argyle Way channel. Definitely check out that preview. I'm sure they'll be doing a match reaction for the game tomorrow, or maybe tonight, I'm not sure. But I'm sure they'll, we touched on it in that episode. We said, look, we are having to sort of play a makeshift starting 11, but we're bringing on players that are not ready, and you can't blame them. You can't blame these players for not coming on and impacting the game, but you need players that are going to come on. In a game like this, you've got to bring someone on that's going to change a game, and Goodrum can do that. He's proved it this season against Cambridge. Slavy Spasov, he hasn't proved it yet, but again, you sort of show signs, or he is showing signs of quality, but again, he's very, very young, and he's definitely not ready for week in, week out first team professional football. That's just not, he should be out on loan. Both Tyler Goodrum really and Spasov should be out on loan, but you can't be sending those players out on loan because we're desperate, because we have not got the players to to use. Ultimately, we're really, really short in numbers, and that is not just down to injuries. It's down to the fact that our recruitment wasn't good enough, and I know we're coming back to recruitment, and I want to sort of focus back on the game, and we will come back to the game shortly. But you have got to look at recruitment, because that did play a factor in today's defeat and in the defeats we've already had this season and the bad performances, because we are really, really short in numbers in positions all over the pitch. Like I say, we're bringing players on that can't impact the game because they're not ready, but we're also still playing players that... Carl Joseph, I'm going to have to highlight Carl Joseph. I don't want to do that. I don't like calling out players individually. He missed an absolute sitter today in that second half. And talk about a big chance. The XG on that chance will probably be close to a goal, close to a goal. And so it should be, because it's an absolutely brilliant chance. It came in quick. It came in maybe as he didn't expect it, but he's a striker. You've got to be expecting a ball to come in the penalty area like that. He got into the position, but... it's a bad miss. It's a horrific miss, and it's a really big moment in the game. And if we'd equalise there, it would be an absolute robbery. I'm not saying we deserve the equaliser, but you've got to take that kind of chance, and we couldn't. And of course, Carl Joseph couldn't either. So, again, that's a huge moment, an absolutely huge moment in, like I say, a game that really we didn't deserve to have that kind of chance. But we did create it. But, as Oxford really are summing up this season, that's really the story of it. We don't even take the chances that we do create. Our creativity is absolutely shambolic. We've spoken about it in recent weeks and since the start of the season. Ultimately, I did it, when we spoke about Bristol Rovers and that horrific defeat. The creativity has been lacking from the start of the season. Even the games that we've won, again, the creativity hasn't been good enough. The performance going forward has not been good enough whatsoever. The width isn't there. We're lacking... any kind of width. We're playing James Henry as a wing-back, but again, even those sort of wing-backs played quite deep today, and we got pushed back by the fact that players like Mumba for Plymouth, he was exceptional. The way that he was just so quick, he was so sharp, he pushed and didn't allow our wing-backs to get into the game, and that's a bit more at a tactical level. But I think the way that their full-backs were so high up, it just absolutely suffocated anything that we tried to do in those wide areas. Joe Edwards as well, the utility man of Plymouth, playing this right-hand side for them this evening. Again, didn't allow Seddon to get any kind of real attempt across the 90. Again, always pushing them back. So it was almost like a flat back five too much of the time for Oxford. And again, we couldn't gain any type of width. And people were saying, why is it, what are we missing? What is the problem when it comes to creativity going forward? And why is it different to how it has been in previous years where we have been so successful? And for me, it's the lack of width. There's the lack of creativity in those wide areas. And again, the mobility of the two strikers, Carl Joseph and Billy Bowden, wasn't there tonight. And again, that's absolutely, catastrophic ultimately in a game like this. Carl Joseph, I'm not entirely sure by him as yet, and that's for two reasons. One, because it wasn't a good performance from him tonight. I know he scored against Burton and against Lincoln. Yeah, he did score against Lincoln, didn't he? But again, I still need to see more from him. I really, really do. It wasn't a good night for him tonight. I think his hold-up play is questionable. I think his ability to actually win headers for a tall striker is questionable. And again, his finishing has to be questioned as well, because tonight, like I say, an absolutely horrific miss. As for Billy Bowden, I know he's just come back from suspension, but still, he should be performing better than he did tonight. He didn't really try and get him behind as much as we would have wanted him to. He had a couple of wayward efforts in terms of strikes, but again, he didn't impact the game the way that I think Carl Robinson needed him to, and we needed him to. And again, that's a massive downfall. The midfielders of Bate, Brannigan and McGuane. McGuane had a really good game, I thought, tonight, generally. I thought the way that what he normally does, and I think that's really important, how he has done since the start of the season. Without McGuane, I don't know where we'd be. And that's simply because the way that he picks up the ball in that midfield. He can drive, he can win fouls, he can actually weave himself out of difficult situations, which a lot of players, unfortunately, aren't able to do. And the bottom line is we are lacking quality. We're lacking quality. I said it right at the start. In certain areas of the pitch, at certain moments, we're lacking quality. And you will not get anywhere in this league, or certainly not where you want to get to. And that, ultimately is a serious promotion push. We're miles away from that. We're absolutely miles away from it. And if Carl Robinson comes out and says that he thinks that, we are still, in with a shout of it, I'm not sure what games he's been watching in the most respectful way possible. And I hope he's honest. I really do. I haven't listened to his thoughts. I really hope he's honest, because I'm still behind Robinson. And that's because I think he is a good manager. and he has been unlucky with injuries. I'll use the word unlucky carefully because, again, a lot of the players that he has signed are the players out injured, and he has to take responsibility for tonight. I'm not saying that he got it right tonight. I'm not saying that he should come away with any praise tonight, because he shouldn't. He was the manager of a side that created nothing and defensively hung on at times and lost the game 1-0. But at the same time, I do think we know that he can, he can form a side that are good going forward. He can form a side that are winning games of football. But at the moment, he's not, and he has to take responsibility. And not just him, his coaching staff as well. They all have to look at themselves and go, where are we going wrong? And silly things in games, and these are sort of specific moments. Different corner routines for Plymouth worked absolutely brilliantly. There's two things wrong with it. The first thing is, why we're not defending it. It's clever. It's clearly been well thought out, but it's, obviously it can be defended. It can be defended, not easily, but it can be defended. It's basically a player. They're all basically trying to explain it. They're all around the centre circle. One drifts out and they sort of create their own type of space. It's a free shot. Again, if the player was marking him, I don't want to sound sort of patronising here, but if a player is marking him, he can't go off and run. If he does go off and run, the player would follow him. But again, we didn't switch on to that. We didn't switch on to those clever things that Plymouth did, and they did that 3 or 4 times. They could have scored 3 or 4 times using that technique. A really good save from Eastwood in the first half when they did it. A couple of efforts went wide when they did it in the second half. But again, these are sort of little moments that, again, Plymouth were really good at, and different things they can do to win games of football. And against a side, maybe, against any side ultimately, they nearly did it against us tonight, but against another side, they'll score from that. And that comes on to the second point. Why can't we do something like that? Our corner routines aren't good enough. When we do get corners, we don't look threatening. And that, again, is just a little moment, I think, a little problem in quite a large problem going on at the moment. When we do try and go forward and do something in an attacking phase, we don't work out these different ways of trying to be successful in that final third, because our final third, ultimate finishing, you'd say, has been horrendous since the start of the season. And anyone that can disagree with me there, I'm intrigued to see what you've got to say. Leave a comment, because I stand by the fact that going forward, injuries or not, we're not good enough. And like I say, when you are a fan and when you go 1-0 down and you don't feel as like you're going to get anything from the game when you go 1-0 down, it's demoralising. It's massively demoralising, and that's as a fan. What's it like as a player? I mean, they can do something about it ultimately. They're the players that can change it, but it feels as though they physically can't, and that's even worse. You look at those players, and there's no doubt whatsoever. And the defeats we've had this season, I've never doubted the work rate. I've never doubted the desire, the care, the hunger, because you can't doubt it. But it comes down to quality, and I think we are lacking it. We really, really are lacking it. And these are, a lot of these players, the majority of them are quality footballers, but something's not right. Something's not right. Whether that's formation, system, confidence won't be at its highest, but we are coming off the back of 2 wins. But if you break those 2 wins down, like I said earlier, they've been grinded out, poor performance wins. And today we found out, and I don't think we needed to find out, like I told you before a ball was kicked, you can't win dirty, you can't grind out a result against Plymouth. And if you can, it's going to be 1 in a million times you can do it, because it's so difficult to do. We got found out today, but in a way that we found out ourselves. You can't win like you do against Burton and Cheltenham against Plymouth. And like I said, that is rocket science. That isn't rocket science. I could have told you that before the game kicked off. I think we all could have done. So, yeah, going back to Plymouth, basically, sort of on an overall scale, the much better side. Again, sprung no surprises really. 55% possession. And by the way, we're talking about possession and how Oxford always like having the ball. I remember Carl Robinson's first 2 seasons in charge, we were the highest side in League One when it comes to percentage of possession. 55% across the 90 today. Really not good enough. The first half, a little bit closer. Second half, when we're chasing the game in the second half, for of course a majority of it, 61 possession to 39. They dominated us in that second half. Did not allow us to give us a sniff. And that again comes down to the quality of Plymouth. And again, the inability for us to gain any type of rhythm in the game and come back and change it in any way. 22 shots in total. 22 shots to 8. They absolutely came at us non-stop. And Morgan Whittaker, who scored the goal in the 70th minute, we highlighted him right at the start of the season as somebody that's a really good loan pickup. I mean, they got Morgan Whittaker on loan from Swansea. We ended up with Carl Joseph. I know based off of tonight's game who I'd rather have on loan from Swansea City. And I don't mean that in a really disrespectful way towards Carl Joseph. I don't, because I think you still got to give him time. He's still getting used to the system. He's still getting used to the way that we want to play. But he's got a system or not. You can play it. You can play 8 players up top, or you can play 1 player at the back. A chance like that you have to take away, system or not, and he'll know that. He will know that. That's why I'm going to round it up, really. Ultimately, a really disappointing night for Oxford, 15th in the league, a disappointing result. By the way, losing at Plymouth is not... I mean, it's a bad thing, but it's not any kind of surprise. I predicted we'd lose the game, to be fair. I think I said 2-0 with my head. My heart hoped we could maybe get a 1-1 draw out of it, and to be honest, we certainly did not look like we were going to do that. But yeah, it's not a disgrace to lose to Plymouth, especially away from home. But in the manner you lose the game, like we did tonight, with basically giving nothing ultimately to these away supporters who travelled away on a Tuesday night down to Plymouth, a long journey down. We didn't really give them anything to cheer about. In fact, we didn't give them anything to cheer about that I can remember ultimately, unless you want to cheer a miss that certainly will go down as one of the worst of the season. Yeah, it's another disappointing night for Oxford. Give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. What's going wrong for Oxford? Again, it's not good. It really isn't. We're really seriously lacking quality, and it's frustrating. It really is. On to MK Dons on Saturday. They lost tonight, I believe, to Bolton Wanderers. But what does that mean? A lot of work still to be done. Tons of work still to be done in my eyes. Give me your thoughts, like I said, in the comment section down below. I've been Jack. This has been the Unfan Podcast. This has been my match reaction for Oxford United against Plymouth Argyle in Sky Bet League One. Of course, at Plymouth Argyle on this Tuesday night. Finishes 1-0 to Plymouth. I've been Jack. Take care. See you in a bit.